The human psyche can be as delicate as an eggshell.
I was always very self-conscious, and I've had very low self-esteem because I've had like this complex about being dark-skinned.
The desire for love and to be loved made her extremely vulnerable.
And the quest for validation can create the perfect conditions for manipulation.
Whatever she was going through by herself, the devil put him right there in front of her.
He's like, from now on, it's gonna be what I say.
Even the most unlikely person can find themselves trapped in a destructive situation.
So police could see them reaching under the seat, and they knew that it was about to explode into violence.
We're dealing with two armed individuals, and a bullet don't care who fires it.
If she was in the right state of mind, she would have never done that. Never.
In the end, their choices can irreparably alter the course of their life.
Criminals that operate in the manner that he operates don't succeed for very long. They're also the most dangerous.
At that moment, I knew, like, okay, I knew it was real. I knew that I was in trouble.
October 11th, 2017, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a cool, crisp autumn evening in the Midwest.
Milwaukee is an ethnically and culturally diverse city.
It's a fantastic city. It's got a lot of diversity. It's got great parks. It's got a great lakefront. It's got great festivals.
But the city has also gained notoriety for being racially segregated, and its disparities in employment and income levels affecting black residents.
It's very segregated. There's rivers and bridges, and you cross them and the whole world changes.
Unfortunately, the city has grappled with crime, specifically homicides, far exceeding other cities. The city is also dealing with other violent types of crime.
The city's police department does what it can to crack down on the lawlessness. But a new case emerges. At 4 p.m. on October 9th, a call comes into the police department reporting an armed robbery at a sub shop just north of downtown Milwaukee.
So officers come to the scene and they interview the only employee that's there.
The employees told officers that a black male entered their store and ordered a sub. As the man waited by the cash register, a black female came into the store.
So the employee opens the cash register, but she comes up, pushes the customer aside, takes out a handgun, and demands the money.
The woman reached over the counter and began removing cash from the register, stuffing it inside a black bag she brought with her.
The employee described the female as black, in her 20s, medium height, medium build. She was wearing all black with a gray baseball cap.
The most distinguishing thing about her is a pink handgun. Of course, the employee had never seen anything like that. He actually thought it was a toy at first, but he could tell by the way she was acting that this, in fact, was not a toy. The employee recalled that there was around $800 in the cash register.
What struck me a little bit differently, there's a female involved. It's pretty uncommon for you to see a female involved. She might be the getaway driver or given some sort of job like that, but not carrying a gun and grabbing money and stuff. That was a little out of the ordinary.
The other thing that's unusual is that she wasn't wearing a mask. Robbers typically try to hide their identity. This suggests that perhaps she was an amateur, her first time doing this.
3 hours later, Milwaukee police receive another 911 call, this time from a Mexican fast food restaurant just 6 miles away.
The call comes in, and the employee is letting the police know that this time there are 2 armed robbers. One is a woman and one is a man.
Detectives arrived on the scene to interview the employees. The description they give is similar to the woman at the sub shop. Medium height, medium build, mid-20s. They described her as wearing all black and carrying a black duffel bag. The gun used was a pink semi-automatic, the same as in the sub shop, which makes them think that the 2 robberies are related.
The other robber is described as a black male in his mid-20s, who is also medium height and build. Witnesses say he wore a white t-shirt and black baseball cap and was armed with a black semi-automatic handgun.
So the employee recollection is 2 armed robbers come in, brandishing guns. They make everyone get on the ground. And the man watches over, making sure no one moves, while she grabs the money and actually stuffs it into her purse.
The employees say that the male suspect took a phone from one of them and also some sunglasses. Once they collected the money, they fled the restaurant on foot.
Police immediately radio the dispatcher with a description of the suspects. Then they realize they may have caught a break.
The employee whose phone was stolen reveals that it's an iPhone, and everyone knows iPhones have the Find My iPhone app on them.
Police use an app to find that the phone was pinging on North 7th and Hampton, about a mile away from the Mexican restaurant. So the dispatcher sent several units to the area, hoping to find the robbers.
At this point, police realize that there is an active crime spree underway. They're not exactly sure who is doing it or when they'll strike next, but they are starting to close in.
Based on the suspects' use of guns in the robberies, police are concerned the spree could escalate.
Robberies are considered crimes of violence, despite the fact that most times no one is injured. But the presence of a gun means potential violence is always present.
So the employees of the Mexican restaurant tell police that the robbers threatened to shoot them if they did not follow their orders to the letter.
One of the workers said that the male suspect pointed a gun at him that he recognized to be a .380. The male suspect then forced him on the ground.
They told police that the gunman saw the employee move his hand and thought he had activated the silent alarm.
The gunman starts screaming. He's asking, "Did you activate the alarm?" The employee says, "No, I didn't do anything." He's panicking at this point. The gunman then says, "If you move your hand an inch, I will shoot you dead."
There was another employee who said that she was approached by a female gunman, and she was ordered to open the register. The employee tried to open it, but she was so nervous she couldn't even get it open.
The robber points this pink gun at the employee and said, "If this cash register is not open by the time I count to 5, I'm gonna shoot you dead." She tries it again, and this time the cash register opens. Were they just bluffing, or would they have really shot the employees? Now, if you're one of the employees, you have no way of knowing, so you have to assume the worst.
Moments later, the gunman entered the restaurant's office. Inside was a male employee.
The employee's iPhone was in the office on the charger. The robber grabbed the phone and stuffed it inside his pocket, and the two suspects fled on foot.
The restaurant manager says that the two robbers made off with around $650 from the store that night.
With two bold, back-to-back armed robberies, police were on edge. They believed if the suspects were not found soon, somebody was bound to get hurt.
He had been investigating a crime spree. 2 armed robberies within 3 hours at a sub shop and a Mexican restaurant as they search for 2 suspects.
The detectives learned that the suspects were a man and a woman, and they had a clear description of the weapons used, including a pink gun that immediately stood out. One employee also reported that his iPhone was stolen during the robbery.
2 years earlier, Milwaukee police created a robbery task force to crack down on an epidemic of carjackings in the city. The effort was so successful that the department decided to keep the task force operational and focus on other armed robberies.
Our robberies have been getting more organized, been getting more violent. So that task force was basically formed to get some sort of handle on that.
The task force has the ability to respond very quickly, so they'll arrive at the restaurant almost immediately.
Employees tell detectives that the robbers were not wearing gloves, so forensic specialists process cash registers and the front doors for fingerprints. They also try to track the stolen iPhone.
The detectives are able to use Find My iPhone to locate the phone. It turns out that the location is 76 in Hampton, which is just about a mile away.
They monitor the app for several minutes, and the phone appears to be stationary. So detectives begin to wonder, does the robber have the phone, or does he live in the area? If so, they may catch them red-handed.
Several officers race to the phone's location.
Officers search the surrounding area looking for this missing phone. One of the officers looks under some shrubs and notices the glow of a cell phone.
He picked up the phone and realized that it was the victim's phone, so clearly the robbers disposed of it.
So they must have realized that the phone could be trapped, and they got rid of it. Officers don't know if they were just driving by and might have tossed the phone out the window, or if they were actually still on foot. We don't know at this point.
The robbery task force has little to go on, and no idea where the suspects may strike next.
At this point, there are all types of questions, but detectives believe that it's the same woman in both robberies because the gun appears to be the same.
The MO for both robberies was similar. Fast food restaurants, they get in and get out very quickly. But now they're making threats of physical violence, so police worry it's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt.
A day passes without any additional robberies. But shortly after 3 p.m. on October 11th, police receive a 911 call from a video game store in a Milwaukee shopping center.
Officers arrive at the scene and begin interviewing employees. One man said he was behind the register when a black man, medium build, medium height, walked up to the register. The man asked the employee about a particular basketball game.
While the man speaks to him, the employee notices a black female enter the store and walk toward the back.
So all of a sudden, the man goes into his sweatshirt pocket and pulls out a black semi-automatic pistol. He points it at the clerk and orders him to get on the ground.
As the man gets on the ground, he hears a female in the back of the store ordering his co-workers to open the cash register. He looks up and sees the woman collecting money, putting it into a black bag. A few minutes later, the robbers fled the store. The employees described them the same as the Mexican restaurant. Medium height, medium build, no mask, and just like in the earlier robberies, the woman had a pink handgun. Clearly it's the same people.
The employees tell officers that the female robber apparently took a GPS tracking device from the cash register.
Some retail businesses have these tracking devices in their cash registers. The idea is that if there's a theft, the robber would take something that later would be able to track them.
Detectives activate the tracker, and it pings half a mile south of the location.
So here we go again, right? The police race to the scene, hoping that they'll be able to catch the robbers red-handed.
But when police get to the location, they find the tracker lying in the middle of the street.
These crooks are sophisticated enough to check their loot, make sure they don't have anything that will lead detectives to them. The video game store is different than a restaurant, because in a restaurant you don't have to worry about shoplifting. But that's a big problem in video game stores, so a lot of them have surveillance cameras.
Detectives review the surveillance video and confirm the descriptions of the two bandits. But the quality is not sufficient to determine facial features.
So the officers go to some of the nearby stores, hoping that someone may have surveillance cameras. And they get lucky. Several of the stores actually do.
Pouring through the videos, detectives see the two suspects flee the area on foot, racing into a nearby residential neighborhood.
Another video shows the robbers getting into this red sedan, and they peel off at a high rate of speed. The GPS from the cash register is found close by to where the car was parked. So detectives are pretty sure at this point that this is the getaway car. Several of the videos depict this gray discoloration on the back of the car. It's on the rear quarter panel of the sedan. Since red sedans are a very popular car, they're hoping that this discoloration will actually help them to locate the car.
Detectives check the department's stolen car database and discover that a red sedan was stolen 2 days earlier, on October 9th, 2017, the same day as the first two robberies.
Detectives know that a lot of times thieves will steal a car because it helps to shield their identity. Officers believe that's the theory that the robbers are using in this case.
A few hours later, police receive another 911 call from a sub shop located about 4 miles from the video game store. An employee reports that the store has been held up by 2 robbers. This time, shots have been fired inside the restaurant. Police, of course, race to the scene, fearing the worst, that someone has been shot.
As authorities rush to the scene, they are left wondering not only who has been shot, but how bad is it?
I committed alone. And the reason that is said is because you can trust one person, yourself. And the minute you commit a crime and you conspire to do it with a second party, law enforcement is always going to use that as a leverage, because there's always an alpha and there's always a beta. And one of you thought that foolishness up and one of you complied and said, that's a great idea. It's very, very rare that you have 2 individuals that commit a crime that have the equal amount of loss at stake, things to risk.
Investigators have been tracking 2 armed robbers, targeting local shops. But despite their efforts, they still have no leads on the suspects' identities. Days later, the suspects struck again, in a robbery that escalated into a shooting.
Every attempt they made to track them came up empty. Even the surveillance footage obtained of the robbers couldn't determine their identity. Then, a couple of days after the first robbery, they hit another sub shop.
The police arrive. One of the employees at the sub shop is an 18-year-old high school senior, Mary Williams. This is her first day on the job.
She tells detectives that shortly after 6 p.m., she was in the back room taking a phone call. She heard a commotion and saw 2 individuals threatening her coworkers.
Williams describes the suspects as a black male and a black female armed with a pink handgun.
She said the female suspect pointed her gun at her and ordered her to put her phone down. Then the female suspect picked it up and put it in her pocket. She demanded to know where the safe was, but Williams told her this was her first day and she didn't know where it was.
Seconds later, the robber enters the office. He tells her to put her head down and do not look up. She's afraid that she's gonna die. She starts crying. Seconds later, she hears him walk back out to the front of the store where the other employee is.
Suddenly, a shot rings out, reverberating throughout the sub shop.
This made Williams more upset and she began crying even harder. She didn't look up. A moment later, she heard what sounded like 2 people running out of the shop. She looked around and couldn't see anyone. She was scared to death.
After the robbers flee, she gets up and begins searching for her coworker.
She finds a coworker in the front of the store. Luckily, he's unharmed. He points to the surveillance camera by the register. He says he shot the camera. The employees estimate approximately $500 was stolen from the restaurant.
Williams informs the police that her iPhone was also stolen.
Once again, police run the Find My iPhone app. They find a location. It's about a mile from the shop. Unfortunately, as soon as they get there, they find the phone discarded on the ground. No robbers.
An hour later, the armed assailants strike another sub shop, getting away with almost $250 in cash. But this time, shortly after, they are spotted by police.
7:54, there are 2 officers sitting in an unmarked car. They are at the corner of Green Bay Avenue and Hampton Avenue. The officers notice a red sedan on the opposite side of the intersection. So the officers roll their car through the intersection, make a U-turn, and pull up next to the red sedan. So the officers both notice on the back of the red sedan, there's a gray spot. So the officers call it in, and they learn that the license plate matched the stolen car from the Bolo.
The police dispatcher sends other marked police cars to the area. Within minutes, officers begin converging on the sedan, unsure what danger they may face.
I'm sitting in the passenger seat and I see these lights. I said, "Do you got anything on you?" He pulled out the gun from on him. I said, "Set it down." He set it down and I had that money on my lap. So I stuffed it under the seat and the police is still, I said, "This not a traffic stop." And he said, "What?" As soon as I said that, they just start coming from everywhere. And boom, they bust the car windows out. And I was like, no, I'm gonna get out.
Police pull the man out of the driver's seat. He's identified as 27-year-old Dion Batten. The woman is 25-year-old Laura Lee Walton. Laura Lee Walton was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I didn't have like a perfect upbringing, but it was nothing bad. Like, my mom was good. Like, she did everything she could. She bought us everything she could. I got 2 sisters. We 3 years apart, so it was always the 4 of us, me, my mom, my 2 sisters.
My mom is very close to all 3 of her kids, very close. Besides her being our mom, she is our best friend. And her and my big sister, they just alike. They both so smart.
Laura's mother prioritized education, making certain all 3 girls graduated high school and got a chance at a college education.
As soon as I graduated, I took a break. I took a break for like 6 months because I wanted to save some money and I wanted to pay for some stuff by myself instead of accumulating all them loans and stuff like that. So I saved some money. And so then when I went to school, I went for criminal justice.
But after a few years, her career goals suddenly changed.
My granddad ended up getting sick. So they pulled my granddad out of a nursing home and put him in the house. My older cousin, she was going to be a nurse. So she was teaching me how to do stuff with him and just how to. So my granddad ended up dying and I decided, okay, well, what do I have to do to take care of people? And so that's when I had another cousin. He was a CNA and he told me about that. So I went to school I switched my major over to nursing. So then I got my first job and I loved it. So that's what I've been doing ever since, the medical field. I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted to do.
I always look up to her because she's so smart. She graduated with a 4.0. She was in volleyball. She did basketball. She truly is a gift. I always wanted to be just like her. I always wanted to have everything that she has.
Laura's love life, on the other hand, moves slowly, in part because of her self-esteem issues.
I was always very self-conscious. When I was younger, I was the only dark-skinned girl. And so they would say stuff like, oh, nobody likes dark-skinned girls, or dark-skinned girls come last. So they would say stuff like that. So ever since then, I've had like this complex about being dark-skinned.
So a lot of people feel like they get treated differently because, oh, your skin is darker, so you're not that much important to the world than a fair-skinned person.
At 21, she began dating a man named Sean, and a year later, she gave birth to a son, Levi. But the relationship ran hot and cold.
They argued constantly, and it was clear that the relationship wasn't going to last. So when it ended, she was eager to find a new love.
One night in September 2017, Laura stopped at a gas station and noticed a man at the pump next to her.
He was like, hey, and I was like, hi. As I'm getting in the car, he's like, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, what's up? And then he was like, you're very pretty, like you're beautiful. Now, when I hear those words like, you're pretty, you're beautiful, it hits different because they didn't say because to be dark-skinned. So that's what even made me initially have the conversation.
The man introduced himself as Dion Batten.
So we sat there, we talked for a few minutes. He was like, can I call you? So I said, you could give me your number. And he was like, okay, cool. He gave me his number and that was it. He went his way, I went my way.
Just a few days later, while Laura was in the neighborhood, Dion happened to drive by.
So Dion sees her. He immediately pulls over and says, what's up? She, tells him, I've been busy. I'm meaning to call you back. But he keeps flirting, and this time it works. And from that day forward, the two were inseparable.
I liked the attention because I knew it was genuine. I was just intrigued that he thought I was pretty and not because I was dark-skinned. He would come over, we would sit on the porch, like I would take rides with him, like stuff like that.
But now, Dion Batten and Laura Walton have been arrested and taken into police custody.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I really didn't, but whatever it was, I knew I didn't have to be in that situation no more.
.80 caliber pink pistol.
Inside the duffel bag, police find almost $1,000 in cash. And then in the console of the car, they find an additional $842.
The next morning, detectives take Walton and Batten into separate interrogation rooms.
Anytime it's two suspects, you keep them separate to stop them from coordinating their stories. You question them simultaneously to compare their answers. You want to expose any inconsistencies and use them against each other to expose the truth.
Dion Batten is questioned, and he tells the police he doesn't know anything about any robberies. He says that Laura is his girlfriend, but he was just driving her to work at her job at a nursing home when they were pulled over and questioned by police.
They asked him how did he come to be driving the red sedan. Mind you, they already knew it was stolen. And Dion said he rented the car from a girl named Mandy for $50.
Batten volunteers that he owns a gun and typically keeps it underneath the driver's seat for personal protection.
He has an answer for everything they throw at him. The car's not stolen, I'm renting it. It's normal for my gun to be under the seat.
Dion's reaction is that of someone who's been through the system. He knows what's at stake. He knows that everything's going to be used against him. He's not going to cooperate with the police.
In an adjacent interrogation room, another detective is interviewing Laura Walton.
The detectives think that Laura will probably also deny everything, because that's what criminals do.
Detectives start by asking her about her appearance the night before, because it appears disheveled, like she's on something. This time, Laura admits that she is addicted to painkillers, Percocets.
They asked me, did I still feel under the influence? I told them no. They asked me, did I take any Percocets before the situation? I said yes. Did I take any before I got questioned? And I said no.
Laura explains that she first became addicted to Percocet after the birth of her son.
I got diagnosed with arthritis when I was 18. So I was taking like little stuff here and there, but after I had ended up getting an epidural with Levi, my back was just so horrible. So I was getting prescribed at the doctor.
She says that when her prescription ran out, she began having new symptoms.
My body hurt so bad, I was sweating. My stomach was cramping up, and I could not for the life understand what was wrong. So I have an auntie and an uncle that had drug addiction problems. And so my auntie told me, she was like, you're sick from not having Percocet. So she gave me a Percocet, and I felt better. So I went back to the pain management, and I was like, listen, I need to be back on the pills that put me back on them.
If someone's taking addictive medications such as Percocets or any other painkiller, they would probably be 9 times out of 10 they'll become addicted to it.
According to Laura, she soon required more of the drug to get the same high.
My tolerance was going up, so I found other ways to get them. One of the ways I started getting them, it wasn't prostitution, it wasn't none of that, but it was definitely something that should have never been happening. That's when it dawned on me that I was addicted. I couldn't go to work without them. I couldn't wake up without them. I couldn't move around without them.
When the detective asks Laura about the robberies, she surprises him by readily admitting her involvement.
They was like, tell me what happened. I told them everything. I did it willingly on my own. And they had told me, well, where did the money come from that was in the car? I said, it came from the robberies.
Laura walks the detective through all 5 of the robberies.
I was just like, yeah, then we went here, and then I did this, and I said this, and I took this. He kept saying, so did he make you do that? Well, what did he do? And I was like, no, I did it on my own. Nobody made me, you know. I did this, I did that. I told him everything about the robberies and stuff like that. And he asked me, is it any more that you've done? I said, no, never, you know. I told them everything.
Laura takes full responsibility for the robberies and makes sure to protect her man in the process. She insists to detectives that she acted alone.
Laura recalls detectives discussing the case and having a hard time accepting that she wasn't coerced by Dion.
I heard them kept saying, she had to been following him. She had to be. I just kept hearing them say that. In the interview, the detective, whatever he wasn't mean to me at all. He wasn't rude to me. He wasn't aggressive. They just kept saying, this is not making sense.
With Laura's confession in hand, detectives confront Dion Batten.
The detectives say, look, I know you're denying everything, but Laura already confessed to all 5 robberies, so you might as well start telling the truth.
So according to him, Laura is the one that suggested the robbery. She worked at a sub shop before, and so she felt like she knew how they operated. He also said that Laura needed the money to pay the rent. So Batten explains that he was the customer in the first sub shop, but acknowledges that they robbed the Mexican restaurant together.
While he say Laura is the one who came up with the robberies, he quickly got addicted to the adrenaline and fast money.
Dion says that 2 days later, Laura told him her electricity had been turned off and she needed more money to pay the bill.
Batten says he needed more money, and so they both decided together to commit more robberies.
They said they were sticking to restaurants, but the one they went to had too many customers, so they robbed the video store instead.
After the video game store, they went on to rob 2 more restaurants before the car they were driving was identified by police and they were arrested.
Both Laura Walton and Dion Batten are charged with armed robbery. When they appear at their first bond hearing, Laura receives a shock.
My bond was literally thousands of dollars more than his. And the judge is saying, how dare you manipulate this man to do this? And you have a child. You're a disgrace to the community. And I'm like, what the are you talking about? And when we walked out, I asked the lawyer, I said, what is going on? And now she said, baby, you in some trouble. She said, this young man has said that you came up with this plan, you coerced him, it was all your idea, he was following your lead. And it was like, what? So at that moment, I knew, like, okay, I knew it was real. I knew that I was in trouble.
The result of both of those things is she's not understanding the reality of the trouble that she's in and what she's actually done.
Laura's attorney warns her that her addiction is limiting his ability to defend her,
As I start sobering up, he started dropping the bombs on me. Like, this is what's being said. This is what's going on. Right now, you're facing a lot of time because right now, you are the mastermind. I said, that is not true. He said, unless you sober up and get to talking, you're going to go to prison for a very long time.
Laura explains to her attorney that the idea for the robberies began shortly after Dion realized she had a drug problem.
Kept my Percocets in my book bag. I left my book bag in his car. So at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I noticed I forgot my book bag. So I called him and I'm like, hey, I left my book bag in your car. Give me my book bag. And he's like, oh, sure. So he pulled the pills out of his pocket. He said, is this what you want your bag for? I said, why was you going through my stuff? And he said, I know a drug addict when I see one. He's like, from now on, it's going to be what I say. He said, do you know what will happen to Levi if the system finds out that you are a drug addict? And I was like, what? He was like, they'll take him and you won't have no baby. He said, do you know you'll lose your job and everything? I'll make you lose your job. And I was like, okay, all right.
She didn't want anybody to know, not her family or anyone to know, that she was using these substances. So Dion took that into consideration, and at that point, he started to manipulate her.
Laura says that a few days later, Dion complains that he lost his job and needs money.
He was like, I gotta find a way to make some money because this ain't hitting on nothing. I said, well, just get another job or whatever. And he was like, I got a better idea.
She tells her lawyer that Dion said he knew a woman who drives an armored truck.
He said, I think that we should rob an armored truck. She gonna give me the whole play. I said, I'm not robbing no armored truck. He said to me, if I tell about your little secret life, you going down, you're not gonna have no job, and they gonna take your son. So what you gonna do? I said, okay, this is what we can do. I said, my first job was a fast food restaurant. I said, we could do something like that because if it's anything like the same, I know the workings of it.
Laura says that after she committed the first robbery, Dion complained that they didn't get enough money.
And I was like, that gotta be enough. He was like, we're gonna have to do another one. And I was like, can you just give me some more Percocets? Like, just give me some more Percocets and I'll do whatever you say.
People struggling with addiction find themselves often doing things they would not normally do. In order to get that next fix, many times they'll literally do anything. And that is exactly what happened to Laura.
It's basically grooming of a conspirator to commit a crime. The minute you're controlling their pills, you own her soul. You can make her do anything.
The second robbery nets them more money, but Laura claims Dion still isn't satisfied. 2 days later, he gets more Percocet from a dealer. Laura explains the drugs fueled her compliance for 3 more robberies. Then, on the evening of October 11th, 2017, they were spotted by police.
Oh God, I was so relieved. I was so relieved because I knew I did not have to, whatever happened, I knew I did not have to deal with him no more.
Drug addiction to force her into the crimes. Laura's attorney presents the evidence of her addiction and Dion's coercion to prosecutors during plea bargain discussions.
So Dion Batten had been involved in a domestic violence case long before he met Laura. So Laura's attorney used this information about his violent past, along with other evidence, to prove that she was not the ringleader, and all evidence pointed to Dion.
Because handguns were used in the crimes, both Dion Batten and Laura Walton are charged under federal statutes.
Discharging a firearm during a crime of violence carries a mandatory 10-year prison sentence. Brandishing a firearm has a mandatory sentence of 7 years. Laura pleads guilty to 5 counts of robbery and 1 count of brandishing a firearm. She is sentenced to 10 years in prison. Because Dion Batten fired his gun at a surveillance camera, he ends up pleading guilty, and he is sentenced to 12.5 years.
Once she's behind bars, Laura has trouble adjusting to prison life.
It was real hard. I ain't gonna lie, that was hard. I had a hard time with fitting into that prison community. Whether it was the officers, whether it was the inmates, for them to come in your room and turn it upside down, empty your stuff out, and just walk away. Like, it feels so violating. It feels, it sucks.
But she quickly learned that pushing back only makes things worse.
I stayed in a SHU. That's called the Special Housing Unit. It's jail inside of jail. I stayed in there a lot. And it's nothing in there but a bed, a toilet. You get no commissary. You get no books. You get no mail. It's a shower in there, and that's it. You in the room all day.
Laura even shuts herself off from her family.
She was very alone, isolated. She wouldn't talk to us at all. So me and her started writing for a little bit, but still I can tell she still wasn't open to tell me what happened, because I would ask her questions and she wouldn't answer them. I know for a fact she was ashamed, because that's not who she is.
The hardest part is being separated from her son, who was just 2 years old when she was arrested.
I talked to my son on the phone. We did video visits, and last time I seen him, he was 2, turning 3. So I don't know this person. I feel like what mother don't know their kid? So I felt very belittled, because my mom had to tell me what he liked, what he didn't like. It was bad. It was real bad.
As her release date approaches, Laura is both excited and nervous.
It was a constant thought in my head. Was I gonna be able to get a job? I just didn't know what was gonna come next. Because everybody say, oh, when you get out of prison, it's hard to find a job because you're a felon. And, it's hard to do, it's just hard to function in life. So I came out real nervous.
When that day finally arrives, Laura finds good fortune on her side.
Surprisingly, I was very blessed. My first ever job interview, I did get the job. It was in the medical field. I thought I was not going to be able to use my license no more because of my crime, but I am able to use my license.
It was just a blessing, and then to look at her and be like, dang, you came home and you got right back on it. How did you do that? It was awesome.
More importantly, she is able to rebuild her relationship with her son, Levi.
He was very, very shy, but he was very open. So that was like a relief, okay? That was a relief. I learned he's very, very forgiving. So I asked him, is he mad at me? And he says no. He never asked me what happened, but if he ever asks me one day, I'll tell him. But we're taking it slow.
In the end, Laura has learned some valuable lessons.
Percocet problem that I had, I wasn't worried about my family being mad, but I was worried about them being disappointed in me. But I feel like had I would have actually asked for help, that none of it would have happened. So it is okay to ask for help. Don't be embarrassed, because if you got a good support system in the family, they want you to ask for help.
She's always been a very mature, independent, but when she came out of there, she had a different brain on a different level. Even when it comes to survival and things like that, she had learned inside of there.
Laura feels her biggest mistake was getting involved with a manipulative man.
He was doing it because he likes control. And I feel like he had Laura doing things under his control because it made him feel important. Once he found out that she was using substances, he had every reason that he wanted to control her.
She cared for this man and craved the attention that he gave her. Combined with her addiction, this made her more vulnerable to his manipulation. She went along with what he wanted, and the haze of drugs prevented her from seeing the harm.
If you really put your mind to it and you get out there and you put the work in, you can do it. You can pick up right back where you left off. As long as you're willing to start somewhere, you can definitely do it. You just gotta believe yourself.
The need for love and attention can leave any of us vulnerable. The exhilarating rush it brings can make it easy to overlook the warning signs. But that thrill can quickly spiral down a dangerous path. And once you're on it, there's no guarantee of turning back.
She'd sacrificed for 20 years to raise her son on her own.
She worked long hours at a fast food restaurant.
All the regulars just adored her.
This is my grandson.
Everyone that came in contact with her loved her.
Ma'am? And her death shook the entire town.
It was something out of a horror movie.
She had been tied up.
Her skull was fractured.
Nobody deserves to die like that.
All the signs point to a twisted predator.
The perpetrator had a bondage fetish.
He's obsessed with control.
He may be suffering from some mental health issues.
People in his life have no idea.
But he's not the only one with a secret.
Where are we going?
She fell on harder times.
She needed something more lucrative.
That's probably the most tragic thing.
You are putting yourself in a very vulnerable position.
And if a person has ill intent, there's an opportunity.
November 15th, 2005. It's a beautiful fall morning in Rome, Georgia, a city of more than 30,000 an hour north of Atlanta.
Rome is a small town. It's slower pace.
It's just a little small area where everybody seems to know everybody.
So when something major happens, usually everyone knows about it.
And this Tuesday morning, something major has happened to Rome resident Jeff Franks.
I ended up calling my cousin. See, my cousin's a deputy coroner.
Hello? Hey, I need your help with something.
Jeff tells his cousin he'd been out hunting that morning.
And as he was on his way home, Jeff had pulled off on a side road to use the restroom.
So there's a church pit, and I pulled up in there.
When I pulled the truck in, I seen her laying in the pit.
He saw what he thought possibly could be a body.
Ma'am, you okay?
And she's covered in blood.
It shook me up, and, I throwed it in reverse and took off.
Then, once he got home, he called his cousin.
I didn't know what to do. I freaked out.
I wasn't going to call the police. I was going to let somebody else call them.
You gotta help me.
His cousin then calls first responders, and before long, they are swarming the scene.
When they arrive, police confirm that the woman is dead.
She suffered traumatic injuries to her head.
No pulse. She's dead.
There's no ID near the body.
Gun started major crimes.
But when homicide detectives arrive, they find a way to identify her.
The woman is wearing a set of dentures.
And in those dentures is a name etched in.
Her name is Susan Christian.
"44-year-old Susan Christian was loved by everyone who knew her.
She had a smile that just drew people in.
She made friends everywhere she went.
Everybody just loved her.
Growing up, she was popular in school and in her church.
Church was one of the biggest part of her life.
Especially the church choir.
Singing was one of her passions.
But the most important thing in her life was her family.
Susan came from a big family. She had 7 siblings.
Being the older sister, she took on a lot of babysitting roles. That was the way family was brought up.
And that sense of responsibility she learned in her childhood applied even more when she became a mother herself.
Can you help me with a question, please?
Of course, love.
She was a single mom, and the relationship that she had with her son, it was amazing.
Her son had what he needed. He never went without, and he knew his mom loved him.
Because Susan was determined to make a future for her child, no matter what it took.
She worked a lot of long hours at a local fast food restaurant.
All the regulars that go there, they just adored her. She was just a really pleasant person to be around.
And after years of struggling to make ends meet, Susan's hard work paid off.
Her son became an adult, and he was able to get out on his own.
Not long after, he'd even had a son of his own.
I got the bottle.
To just be there for him, as she has always been, it's like a whole new level of motherhood for her. It was beautiful.
She was finally able to focus on herself and her second act.
But there would be no second act for Susan Christian.
Hello? Hey, I need your help with something.
A man named Jeff Franks
Ma'am?
had just found her body in an isolated area outside of town.
When I pulled up in there, she was laying there.
I didn't know what to do. I freaked out.
He called his cousin, and that cousin was the one who reported the crime to the authorities.
And when detectives arrived at the scene, they identified Susan from the name on her dentures.
She suffered traumatic injuries to her head.
There's a large rock covered in blood near her head.
It was immediately obvious that Susan died in a horrific, unnatural way.
But is that the only horror she suffered?
She's in her underwear. Her clothes seem to be strewn around her body.
She had been tied up, her wrists and ankles.
In the small town of Rome, Georgia, everyone knew 44-year-old Susan Christian.
She was known for being bubbly and friendly.
Everyone that came in contact with her loved her.
She loved singing, she loved church, and most importantly, she loved being a mother.
She was a new grandmother.
I got the bottle.
And she found great joy in that.
Ma'am? You okay?
But now, a hunter has found Susan's body in the woods on the outskirts of town.
How she was left. It was something that you would actually see out of a horror movie.
To the detectives, it appears that she'd been sexually assaulted.
How could a person do someone like that and then leave them like that, like they were an animal?
Detectives suspect that sex work could have led to her death.
When they return to the station and reach out to the people closest to Susan, they discover their hunch was correct.
Friends said that she had a hard time making ends meet as a single mom.
After her son moved out of the house, she fell on harder times.
So when can I see you again?
You know the deal.
Financial struggles became very readily apparent.
You going out this time?
Yeah.
She needed something more lucrative than her fast food job.
So after much thought, she began offering her services as an escort.
Her friends were concerned, but Susan felt like it was her only option despite the risks.
They worried that something bad might happen to her.
She assured them that she ran her business as safely as she possibly could.
She would arrange her dates over the phone so there'd be a record of who she was seeing.
She felt like this could help her control the setting.
But could sex work have led to her death despite these safeguards?
There's no safe precautions when an individual chooses to do sex work because you cannot always control the situation. At some point, you're going to be vulnerable.
The killer might be a client.
But when the detectives asked if they knew who any of her clients were, they said no.
That wasn't something they talked about.
However, they said there may be someone who can help.
Susan did have a roommate.
His name is Daryl Wilkins.
He may know more information.
After talking to Susan's friends, the detectives head to the rental home she shared with Daryl.
Daryl Wilkins opens the door and confirms that he's Susan's roommate.
He's a little suspicious about why detectives are there.
You mind if we ask you a few questions about Susan Christian?
Yeah, sure. She in some kind of trouble?
He was very cautious in the beginning.
But his attitude changes when the detectives reveal the nature of their visit.
Susan's been murdered.
A hunter found her body this morning.
What?
He cannot believe that she's dead.
He becomes very cooperative.
And he is fully aware of Susan's activities as an escort.
In fact, Daryl isn't just aware, he's involved.
He says that he will often help Susan coordinate meetings with her clients.
He said he'd answer the phones and take messages for her.
She only arranged meetings over the phone, and because she wanted to control the setting, most of the times her clients came to her home.
She wasn't out there in the streets like that, you know?
However, according to Daryl, she did make a few exceptions.
There were times that she would meet them outside and go somewhere else with them.
In fact, he said that's what happened yesterday.
He does state to authorities that on the date of November 14th, she did have 2 clients that she was meeting with, that he was aware of. She had one client end at 5:15, and then at 5:30, she had another client who was picking her up.
You going out this time?
Yep. I'll be back later.
But according to Daryl, she never came back.
Did that worry you?
I mean, a little bit, but, you know, sometimes she doesn't really tell me what's going on.
He didn't know what happened after that.
And he didn't know who she was supposed to meet.
But could there be a way to find out?
When the detectives asked Daryl, could they look around, he said, "Be my guest."
Looking around the house, detectives find a cell phone in Susan's room.
Is this Susan's cell phone?
Yeah, that's hers.
Detectives took the phone with them, hoping that one of her contacts would provide a good lead.
Back at the station, the detectives try to identify the last client Susan supposedly met.
Detectives go through the phone and they start calling all of the numbers that they find.
To avoid alerting anyone of their purposes, they told them that they found a phone and they're just trying to find the rightful owner.
And I was wondering, can you help me out?
The results are disappointing.
Thank you.
Most people are unhelpful.
It was likely that some of the men they talked to were clients of Susan's, but didn't want to own up to it.
But after dozens of fruitless calls, detectives finally catch a break.
Out of all the people that they speak to, only one confirms that that is in fact Susan's phone.
His name is Mike Campbell. When detectives tell him that they are investigating her murder, he admits that he's one of her regular clients.
In fact, he may have been one of the last people who saw Susan alive.
He saw her the day that she was killed.
It was the gentleman that left at 5:15 that day.
So when can I see you again?
You know the deal.
Detectives investigating the murder of 44-year-old sex worker Susan Christian have just made contact with one of her clients, a man named Mike Campbell.
He saw her the very same day that she was killed.
But does that mean he's her killer or merely a possible witness?
He said that he left her at the house around 5:15.
According to Susan's roommate, Daryl, she left to see another client soon after.
Hoping Mike might have some insight into Susan's other clients, the detectives ask him to come down to the station.
And when he arrived, he seemed genuinely shocked by Susan's death.
She was a good woman. I mean, I know what we were doing is illegal, but still.
He tells detectives that his date with Susan that afternoon was no different than their previous encounters.
He showed up at her house at his scheduled time. They had sex, and then he left.
Mike said he left her home at 5:15.
Which lines up with what Susan's roommate Daryl already told detectives.
Daryl said that she saw someone else there that afternoon. Did she say anything to you about that?
Nah, like, she's real discreet about that stuff.
You didn't see anyone else at the house when you left?
I wish I had something to tell you, but no.
He left immediately. He has no idea what happened to her.
They ask Mike where he went after he dropped off Susan, and he states that he met up with some friends afterwards.
All right, I think we're done here.
And when the detectives follow up on his alibi, it checks out.
That immediately eliminated him as a suspect.
No closer to identifying the killer, the detectives reach out to Jeff Franks, the man who found Susan's body.
The question that keeps coming up is, why did Mr. Franks not call law enforcement?
Instead, he called his cousin.
That just really doesn't make sense to the authorities.
Was it possible he was trying to distance himself from Susan's murder?
Maybe he's Mr. 530.
When the detectives ask him to come in for an interview, Franks agrees.
Me finding her and out somebody that you're gonna look at. That's just like your husband and wife died. They gonna look at him. He's the closest person to her. And I was the person that found her.
Look, I know how it looks, but there's a reason I didn't call the police.
I was scared of the police worse than I was scared of finding her, I wasn't too good a boy back then.
Jeff did not have what you would call a clean criminal history.
I was a junkie. I smoked ice, crack cocaine, I drank. I didn't care.
I'm a drinker, That doesn't mean I killed her.
So that's really just not adding up for the authorities. So they continue to press Jeff on what really happened.
So you didn't tie her up?
Bash her head in with a rock?
No!
Jeff continues to deny that he has anything to do with Susan's murder.
But is he telling the truth?
You sit tight, we have a warrant for your truck.
They got their swabs out and swabbed it and everything.
When the authorities search his vehicle, there's blood in the back of the truck.
Confronted by the detectives, Jeff says he can explain.
The day before I found her, I had killed a deer.
Found blood in the back of your truck.
He said he'd driven the kill home in his truck.
And that was what the authorities found in the back of his truck.
But the detectives aren't about to take his word for it.
The police forensic unit send those blood samples out to a lab for DNA analysis to confirm whether it is deer blood or if there's any other type of blood or DNA that might be present in the back of Jeff's truck.
They thought I was the #1 suspect.
Instead, Franks turns out to be a dead end.
When the authorities get the lab results back regarding the blood, it is in fact confirmed that it was not human blood, so the authorities are back basically to square one in their investigation.
With nowhere else to turn, the detectives track down other sex workers in the community.
The escort profession, the females commonly know each other.
And the detectives believe the killer may be a client with a particular fetish.
She had been tied up, her wrists and ankles.
But will any of them be willing to cooperate?
They're very hesitant to talk to law enforcement because what they do is considered a crime.
So to no one's surprise, none of the girls wanted to cooperate with the authorities in this investigation.
Until finally...
Hello?
The detectives speak to a woman named Naomi Parker.
She does reveal to authorities that she is a sex worker as well.
But Naomi wanted to be as helpful as possible.
Yes.
She does want to speak. She wants to come forward.
Naomi says she is furious about Susan's death.
She tells the authorities that she was friends with Susan and that they were very close.
Yeah.
She wants to kill her caught as quickly as possible.
And she thinks she can help.
She believes she knows who the killer is.
How do you know that?
'Cause he's a client of mine too.
She had this one client who was into some pretty kinky stuff.
He enjoyed tying women up.
With the help of a woman named Naomi Parker, detectives investigating the brutal murder of Susan Christian may have identified a person of interest.
Naomi was one of Susan's closest friends and also a sex worker.
This guy's a client?
Yeah. His name's Sean.
She says this particular gentleman has been a client of hers for almost a decade.
According to Naomi, Sean had recently become a client of Susan's, too.
Sean had told her that he wanted to start seeing other girls and not just her.
So Naomi introduced him to Susan.
He knows her as Miss Molly, though.
And Naomi says she has a good reason to suspect Sean had something to do with Susan's death.
She reveals that he at times would tie her up.
And when the hunter found Susan's body, her wrists and ankles were tied.
He had a very similar fetish to what the authorities believed the killer had.
He's into bondage?
Yeah, that's kind of his thing. He's a really weird dude.
She says it's not just that he wanted to tie her up. He definitely had some odd requests during their sexual encounters.
She said he had a sick, sadistic side.
He would physically hurt you?
Not exactly. He was more into, like, mind games.
Like role playing?
Yeah.
He liked to push these role-playing sessions to their limit, to where it seemed to them that maybe they weren't really role-playing anymore.
How about I leave you hanging there?
Please don't. He found satisfaction when she would tell him she was afraid for her life. You kind of are putting yourself in a very vulnerable position if you're on the receiving end of that person's fetish. So it can be a little scary sometimes to give up that part of yourself and lose control.
Sean! The question is, had Sean lost control?
If this guy gets off on scaring women and making them feel like they're in danger, it's not hard to imagine that he took things to the next level.
Could that explain Susan's death?
And you're sure that Susan hooked up with this Sean guy?
Yeah.
The detectives asked Naomi, do they think that Susan would be okay with the role-playing?
She says that Susan wasn't into those types of things.
Although she also said that Sean was willing to pay extra to get you to play along.
It sounds like Sean is likely the guy that detectives are looking for.
Now all they have to do is find him.
When they ask Naomi if she knows Sean's last name, she reveals that she doesn't.
But she can tell detectives a few things about him.
He's white, in his 30s maybe.
He drives a red truck, and he works for the post office.
And in a small town like Rome, Georgia, that may be enough.
So after talking to Naomi, the detectives reached out to the town's post office.
That would be great, thanks.
They get a potential match.
A mail carrier named Shane Abernathy.
The name is similar to the name Naomi provided, but not exact.
So is this the right guy? He does work at the post office, and he does drive a red truck.
For confirmation, the detectives take the photo of Shane from his personnel file and ask Naomi to come down to the station.
Then they showed her a photo lineup with Shane's picture mixed in.
She was immediately able to identify Shane as the person that has been a client of hers.
Detectives assume that Shane used a fake name with Naomi and Susan.
But even with Naomi's positive identification of the man she knew as Sean, the detectives are a long way from making an arrest.
They didn't have anything connecting him directly to the crime.
Detectives decide to learn what they can about him.
So they set up surveillance, they studied him, gathered intelligence.
They also make discreet inquiries with his co-workers.
Detectives learned that the 34-year-old is very introverted.
He keeps to himself a lot, and he's very much about routine and order.
His method of going about his day is conducive with someone who enjoys being in control of a situation at all times.
They also suspect that he may be suffering from some mental health issues.
Shane is potentially a very dangerous man.
However, The detectives are also surprised to learn that this loner isn't alone.
Detectives discovered that Shane is married.
Based on the fact that he used sex workers to explore some of his fetishes, they do not believe that his wife knows about his hidden desires.
But there's still nothing other than Naomi's ID to connect him to Susan or her murder.
He doesn't even have a police record.
Which may present them with an opportunity.
Since he doesn't appear to be a hardened criminal, the detectives may be able to rattle him.
Detective placed a call to Shane.
Hello?
They kept it casual, engaging him in conversation.
Then, once his guard is down, they drop the hammer.
They tell Shane that they're investigating a death, and his name came up.
You may have seen it in the news. The woman in the woods on the outside of town?
And they're just hoping to find out if he knows anything that may help them.
Will the nudge have the desired effect?
Shane said he didn't know anything about the death.
Yeah, you said my name came up?
From a friend of the victim.
I don't know who Naomi or Susan is.
This catches the detectives' attention because they hadn't shared the names of anyone involved.
They basically caught him slipping up.
Now they just need to keep him on the hook.
Detectives tell Shane that it's okay that he doesn't know anything, but that they need him to come down to the precinct.
Shane is very reluctant, but he agrees to come down to provide an interview.
All right, I'll see you then.
He sets up a time with the detectives before he hangs up the phone.
All right, we'll see you then.
But will he keep the appointment?
Based on everything that they've learned about Shane so far, detectives know that he's obsessed with control.
And they don't really know what his next move is going to be.
Fearing he may try to flee, the detectives keep him under surveillance.
Instead, he did the opposite.
He shows up the day before his scheduled interview.
Hey, my name's Shane Abernathy. I need to speak to a detective.
Hold on, let me see if they're here.
And he's demanding to speak to the detectives.
Hey, Shane Abernathy's out there to see you guys.
Shane Abernathy, the man detectives suspect murdered 44-year-old sex worker Susan Christian, has just walked into the Rome, Georgia Police Department.
Hey, my name's Shane Abernathy. I need to speak with the detectives.
He shows up demanding to talk to the detectives.
Hold on, let me see if they're here.
What's interesting is that the detectives had already made arrangements to interview Shane the following morning.
Although Shane showing up early isn't exactly a surprise for the detectives.
Shane Abernathy's out there to see you guys.
They know he has this need to control the situation.
Which is why he tried to preempt their scheduled interview.
But the detectives are just as capable of playing head games.
Tell him we're not here. Come back tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
He tells that the investigators are not available and to come back at a scheduled appointment time.
After his power play backfires, there's little Shane can do but leave. But he's back the next day.
Sure enough, he shows up right on schedule.
And when he finally does sit down with detectives, he starts out by admitting that he does know Naomi Parker and Susan Christian.
He said that he used Naomi's services for several years. She connected him with Susan.
So you were paying for services for both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so what sort of things were you doing?
Detectives asked about his interest in using bondage during his encounters.
How about I leave you hanging there?
And he voluntarily admitted that that was one of his fetishes.
I did that a few times with Naomi.
What about with Susan?
It wasn't her kind of thing.
Shane said that was something that Susan didn't want to do.
So you never tied her up?
Not that he hadn't tried.
Shane said he attempted to talk her into it, offered her extra money and things like that.
But it led to a lot of arguments between the two. So he just kind of gave up and he didn't even try that with her anymore.
Shane said that he respected that this was something that Susan didn't want to do.
Okay, on the 14th, did you ask her to do bondage then?
I didn't ask her anything. I didn't even see her that day.
He refuses to admit that he did in fact see Susan on the day of her death.
No matter how the detectives ask, he will not confirm that.
But despite the denials, Shane keeps talking.
Detectives get the impression that something's weighing heavy on his mind.
The authorities can tell that there's something that's really bothering him, that he needs to get something off his chest.
And they give him a chance to do it.
Detectives take it slow with him.
They asked him questions, give him time to think about it.
They also gave Shane the impression that they were on his side.
Look, we understand why you wouldn't want to say you were with her that day.
I mean, it would look bad, even though nothing happened. So, let us help you out.
Detectives can tell that he's getting tired of holding back.
And eventually, the strategy starts to pay off.
They finally got him to a place where he admitted to seeing Susan the day she died.
He also admitted that he tried to pressure her into more than just a simple hookup.
He kept pushing until it led to an argument.
How many times do I have to tell you no?
He tells the authorities that he has never seen her get that upset before in all the time that he's known her.
And she started to freak out, you know?
So what did you do?
Nothing. I didn't touch her.
Shane insists that he did not hurt Susan.
But the detectives don't believe him.
Someone smashed Susan's skull with a rock, and it wasn't Susan.
Detectives were very persistent. They encouraged Shane to tell the truth.
Come on, man. This is your chance to tell your side of the story.
I know.
Finally, Shane starts to break down.
Shane says, I never meant to hurt her.
When interviewed by detectives investigating the murder of Susan Christian, suspect Shane Abernathy has admitted that he was involved in the sex worker's death.
He admits that things did go too far.
But he claimed that he never meant to hurt her.
But you did see her on November 14th.
Yeah, we had a date.
For sex?
Yeah.
He says that he made arrangements with Susan to use her services around 5:30 p.m.
Although Shane says that when he got to her house, things took an unusual turn.
Instead of meeting in her house as they usually did, Susan came out to his pickup truck.
Susan came out and said, hey, let's go on a road trip.
Where are we going?
We'll see. Shane said that she directed him southbound on Highway 27.
He drives until they're in an area that's very secluded.
They got out of the truck, went around to the back, and sat on the tailgate where Susan was going to perform a sex act on him.
So what happened then?
Regular sex, it doesn't really work for me.
So he thought he'd try and amp things up.
Even though he knew that Susan wasn't interested in bondage, he still decided to ask her.
Brought the ropes as well, if you want to give it a try.
He asked her whether he could tie her up.
How many times do I have to tell you no?
But Susan, as usual, said no.
Although, according to Shane, it was more of a hell no.
This time, he says that she freaked out more than she had in the past.
Just take me home.
Just this once, I swear it'll be fine.
What is wrong with you? No! Let's go!
She said that she was claustrophobic and couldn't deal with being tied up.
She started freaking out, so that's when it happened.
What?
I lost it.
Shane said he had no idea why her refusal upset him so much this time. but it sent him into a rage.
He says he blindly groped for something to hit her with.
And smashed it over her head.
Then, once she was down on the ground, Shane had gone ahead and tied her up.
At that point, he realizes that something is very, very wrong.
He realized that she wasn't breathing.
Susan, wake up!
He panicked, he freaked out.
He gets in his truck and he leaves the scene. He speeds off as quickly as he can.
Why didn't you call the police?
Because I was scared. I wanted to get out of there.
Shane said it happened all so fast.
He's very emotional at this point in the interview. He states that he didn't mean to hurt her.
I don't know what got over me.
He expressed extreme remorse and agreed to cooperate with the detectives.
All right, stand up. You're under arrest for the murder of Susan Christian.
The detectives take the confession to the district attorney.
At this point, the district attorney's office brings charges against him. They charge him with murder, aggravated assault, and with aggravated battery.
The detectives also secured a series of search warrants.
But when the detectives search Shane's house, the results are disappointing.
There's no evidence in his home that directly connects him to Susan.
However, there was plenty of circumstantial evidence tying him to the crime.
While processing his home, detectives found a computer with 900 images and videos.
These videos portray bondage and violent sexual acts.
And when the search moves to Shane's truck, the detectives hit the jackpot.
During the course of processing the truck, detectives find blood stains on the driver's door, the seat, the tailgate, and the bumper.
And the crime lab confirmed that the blood was Susan's.
Faced with an overwhelming amount of evidence against him, Shane agrees to a plea deal.
In exchange for his plea, the murder charges are reduced to voluntary manslaughter.
Since Susan's activity as a sex worker would likely be a central theme of the trial, her family was thankful for the plea.
It gave me peace to know that we didn't have to go through a trial.
But the family is less pleased with Shane's sentence.
He's sentenced to 40 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years.
That means that Shane could be released in the year 2027.
I just don't feel like that time justified the crime that was committed. When you take a life, then you should stay in for life. That's just my outlook on it. I wasn't pleased with that sentencing, but it was out of my control.
Because at the end of the day, Shane didn't kill just a sex worker. He killed a human being.
Nobody deserves to die like that. You know, it don't matter what kind of life they live in.
There's often a stigma about sex workers, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a living.
We know that in our society, people find themselves in situations they wouldn't normally be in if it wasn't for circumstances that forced them there.
Susan's work as a sex worker should not define her.
She was a mother, a daughter, a sister, a aunt, a grandmother, a loved one, a family friend. And people should know that Susan was loved, she was loved, and she's missed.
She was on the verge of fulfilling a lifelong dream.
She was a substitute teacher, and she loved education. She was a bubbly person looking forward to her future.
She was looking to settle down and have a family.
He appeared at just the right time.
He was somebody that was very sure of himself.
It was a whirlwind romance, and she was excited to see where the relationship could go.
But when the young teacher vanishes without a trace...
Y'all already made a report last night?
Yes, sir. Yeah, missing persons report.
Everyone's a suspect.
Why did you guys end your relationship? She was entertaining other dudes while she was with me.
The frantic search would uncover long-lost secrets.
She had 4 pets. One by one, they started dying.
Bizarre accusations.
There's an app that sets up young women with older men called sugar daddies.
And the revelation that sometimes old habits die hard.
He was like standing over her.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah.
They were standing next to your bed holding a samurai sword? Yeah, it's very familiar to us.
If that's not crazy, I don't know what is.
I already know something is wrong. She's not okay, and it's because of him.
Friday, September 25th, 2020, Houston, Texas. As the work week winds down, all is quiet in the city's west side enclave of Memorial.
Houston is comprised of a lot of smaller towns and cities once you get outside of the kind of metro area. So Memorial is one of the areas heading out to the suburbs.
Memorial is especially affluent. You see a lot of high-dollar homes and apartments and things like that.
But as night falls on this peaceful suburb, a desperate 911 call comes in to local dispatchers.
Houston 911, do you need medical, police, or fire?
I'm at my daughter's house, and we need an officer to do a welfare check.
The caller says no one in the family has heard from her stepdaughter, 29-year-old Emma Shea Kirby, in 5 days.
Emmy's family contacted the apartment maintenance worker to let them into the apartment.
However, there is no sign of her inside.
No one has heard from her since Sunday. We've been trying to call her. She's not responding. She's not responding to messages.
They had no trace of her at all, and it's just really weird.
Okay, a police unit will be dispatched.
Emma Shea Emmy Kirby was small in size, but made a big impact on everyone she met.
Emma Shea was 4'9" and about 100 pounds, and she was definitely the light of the room. She was very friendly, very outgoing, and just a very lovable person.
Emmy was a substitute teacher for the Katy ISD, which is the large independent school district out there in the Katy Memorial area.
Emma Shea loved working with children.
She also loved animals. She had 2 small dogs that she adopted, and she treated them like they were her babies.
But even though Emmy had her dogs to keep her company, she craved more companionship.
Emma Shea was 29. She was looking to settle down and have a family.
Hi. What brings you in today?
Just an oil change.
And when she met a 28-year-old mechanic named Javon Gilbert in the spring of 2019, she felt an immediate connection.
She took her car in to get serviced and ended up meeting Javon Gilbert. He was tall, dark, and handsome, which was her type.
Got any plans for later on?
No.
There was an exchange of phone numbers, and from there the relationship started.
He was somebody that was very sure of himself, and so this charismatic personality that he had is what won Emma Shea over.
She was excited to see where the relationship could go.
Within months, the flirtatious spark was firing on all cylinders.
It was a whirlwind romance, and she finally felt like she found a stable relationship.
She had introduced him to her family, and in December of 2019, in fact, they had vacationed in Cabo with her parents.
The family got to know Javon a little bit, and it just seemed like a match made in heaven.
Once they returned from their trip, the relationship continued to flourish.
Things just continued to go really fast in the relationship.
She was so in love with him.
They were basically living life to the fullest.
But in September of 2020, police have just arrived at Emma Shea Kirby's apartment, where it appears she has disappeared without a trace.
Emma Shea's family knew something was not right and got to the point where once they could not reach Emma Shea, they reached out to the police.
Emma Shea had such a supportive family. They all rallied together.
Houston police, you want to step outside and talk?
Emma Shea's father and stepmother quickly relay their concerns to the responding officers.
It is completely abnormal. We get over here, we gain access to the apartment. The dogs are in there, which is completely unlike her. These dogs are like her babies.
When entry is made by the parents, they realize that there is a set of keys that is still within the apartment.
I found her keys flipped on the back of the door. All 3 of her apartment keys are there, but the door was locked.
But there's no sign that Emmy has been home any time recently.
That's certainly concerning because we have apartment keys, but they can't locate her phone at that time. They also don't locate her purse within her apartment.
Yeah, that's really strange that she would take off like that.
They knew something was wrong. It just looked like she vanished.
For 29-year-old Emma Shea Kirby, the future looked extremely bright.
Emmy had been a pretty successful young woman. She comes from an affluent family.
She was a substitute teacher, and she was aspiring to become a full-time teacher.
And she had recently fallen in love.
She was in a committed relationship with a local mechanic named Javon Gilbert.
He was very supportive of her dreams. It appeared that he was just the perfect man for her.
But now, after being unable to reach Emmy for nearly a week, her family has shown up at her apartment in West Houston to discover some worrisome signs.
We didn't find her phone in the house, but it's going straight
to voicemail, so it's off, okay?
Yeah, it's not even ringing.
The family is very stressed out right now. They filed a missing persons report.
At this point, they're just trying to figure out where she is.
But hours later, as the sun rises over Houston, there's still no sign of Emma Shea.
Police came back over to the apartment the next day to follow up with Emma Shea's family.
Y'all already made a report last night?
Yeah, a missing persons report.
Emma Shea's parents tell police that they were able to locate her car in the light of day, but its location gave them pause.
It's parked in a completely different parking lot, a distance away.
Her parents pointed out to the police that her car was in a spot that didn't make any sense for it to be across the lot.
The family leads police to Emma Shea's vehicle.
It's at the back side of the building. This is the back of the building.
Yeah.
The keys found inside Emma Shea's apartment allow police easy access into her car.
They searched the car, but they really don't find anything.
When police ask if there's anyone else who might have access to Emma Shea's car or apartment, her family reveals she recently dated a man named Javon Gilbert.
Javon was staying over periodically, and that led to longer and longer stays, and he eventually moved in.
But Emma Shea's parents say the relationship had run its course.
They had recently broke up about 2 weeks ago.
They broke up.
The boyfriend and her.
He subsequently moved out.
Javon moved in with his father, and Emmy was moving into another apartment that was a little bit more affordable for her.
Emmy was in the process of packing up to move there on her own with her dogs.
Emmy's family goes on to explain they've been in contact with Javon over the past week regarding Emmy's whereabouts.
He had told her family he hadn't seen her, hadn't heard from her.
He didn't have a key, did he?
He's claiming that he doesn't have a key.
Okay.
After taking down Javon's contact information for their report, police take a closer look at the inside of Emma Shea's apartment.
Interestingly enough, there was no sign of forced entry at all. There wasn't any evidence of foul play.
There were a lot of items that appeared to be being packed in preparation for a move, which was expected. However, there were items such as furniture, couches, things like that that were in fact missing that wasn't expected at this point.
Without evidence of foul play, there's only so much police can do.
There was no obvious signs of her being in trouble at that time other than a grown woman not being at home.
Still, investigators want to help Emmy's family as much as possible.
Police actually went to Emmy's apartment management, and they asked for footage to see what was going on outside of the apartment.
However, they immediately hit a roadblock.
I don't know how to use that.
Oh, okay.
My manager is usually the one who does it, and he's not here right now.
Okay. Well, we're not going to go nowhere with this.
Despite their best efforts, the missing persons team will need an official warrant to obtain the footage. And as the hours tick by, the search for Emma Shea intensifies.
Parties gather together and start working their own investigation, as family often do, in an attempt to assist law enforcement with finding Emma Shea.
As a mother, as a father, they're trying to do their very best to get the word out to the community in terms of, have you seen Emma Shea?
The family makes flyers and posters to put up around the neighborhood and hand out.
They also enlist the help of an organization called Texas EquiSearch.
Texas EquiSearch began in 2000 as a nonprofit volunteer search organization, and we search for missing people.
We have drones, ATVs, and then a group of foot searchers. Everyone puts in where they can to help out the families that need it in whatever way.
Meanwhile, missing persons investigators with Houston PD reach out to Emma Shea's ex-boyfriend, Javon Gilbert.
Police are typically going to speak to the significant other when there is a missing person because they're the person who is closest to the victim.
Hey, is this Javon?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, man? My name's Officer May. I'm with HPD Missing Persons Division. I saw your name in the report that you used to date Emmy Shea Kirby?
Yeah.
He does confirm that they had broken up and that he had moved back in with his family.
Javon indicates that he and Emmy were still friends and were still cordial despite the fact that they were recent exes.
Last time I seen her was on Friday night.
That would have been the 18th?
Yeah, we went out to eat.
Javon says he drove over to Emmy's place, and then they left together to get burgers.
And then what?
We went to her house.
So you guys are just chatting about whatever, you know, your relationship, whatnot?
No, we weren't even chatting about a relationship.
They went up to her apartment and they Netflixed and chilled, so they say.
He says Emmy was acting normal.
You guys were hanging out there Friday night. What time did you leave?
I left there around like 11 something, and I made it home about like 12 because I have to go to work the next morning.
Javon indicates he drove home by himself to his father's place and that was the last time he ever saw Emmy.
However, Javon says the last time he communicated with Emma Shea was on Sunday, the same day her family last heard from her.
Okay, so she texted you on Sunday, September 20th?
Yeah, she said she was busy cleaning up.
He last heard from her via text on that Sunday, and so they were kind of getting a timeline of her last movements.
Why did you guys end your relationship?
We ended our relationship because she was entertaining other dudes while she was with me.
Javon says he and Emmy broke up because he found out she was cheating on him after going through her phone.
She talked to these other dudes, just like chatting them up and flirting?
Well, a little bit more than that.
He reported that Emmy had been on an app on the internet that sets up young women with older men.
She was on this dating app. It's the Sugar Daddy app.
It was just red flag after red flag.
All new True Crime Monday. Officers make a horrific discovery.
There's no signs of forced entry. This may now be a murder for hire.
All new Fatal Attraction next Monday at 9 on TV One.
I've been a searcher with EquiSearch since 2016. Typically, we start at, we call it ground zero. Then we go everywhere, basically. I don't sleep when we're getting ready to go on a search because I'm playing everything through my mind, you know, the preparation, the part of, are we going to find this person? I love what I do. I love that I can help the families. It's sad, but at the same time, it's a rewarding feeling that you've helped somebody.
A week after Emma Shea Kirby was last seen, Houston police investigating the disappearance of the 29-year-old teacher are interviewing her ex-boyfriend, Javon Gilbert.
Emmy and Javon had just broken up about 2 weeks ago.
But according to him, they remained friends.
And now, Javon has just relayed a shocking new piece of information to investigators.
She was on this dating app. It's the Sugar Daddy app.
According to Javon, she continued to talk to other men from the sugar daddy websites, and that was a sore spot in the relationship.
It could be a situation where one of the men that she was allegedly talking to could have done something to her.
It was just red flag after red flag.
But that's not the only concerning information Javon reveals.
Javon indicated that Emmy was depressed a lot of the time and drinking heavily.
Like a big time drinker or just like a social drinker?
Nah, she's a heavy time drinker.
Javon said she was depressed and laying around a lot.
Since COVID started, she's just been at home, just watching YouTube. That's literally been her life. Like, she really didn't clean the house. I had to clean the house. Sometimes she really didn't even want to walk the dogs.
He's painting a picture of she was depressed and she possibly hurt herself, or her alcohol may have caused her to be missing and have something to do with this case.
So police have to investigate whether or not this is a legitimate claim.
All right, man. Well, hey, once again, I really appreciate your time.
All right.
At this point, police are looking at all the options.
Hoping to find out more, detectives start reaching out to Emmy's other loved ones. At the top of their list is her sister, Aaliyah.
The family said her sister and Emma Shea talked every day. And when she had not heard from Emma Shea, that's what sounded the alarm. That was something that was not normal.
She lived in Austin at the time. Aaliyah got to Houston as quick as she could and went to the station to help this investigation.
We want to talk about Emma Shea and your relationship with her.
Emma Shea is my older sister. We talk every day, multiple times a day. We would just video call each other, say what we had to say. I mean, sometimes like 5 times a day.
Emmy and Aaliyah were basically best friends as well as sisters.
She explains how odd, how weird it is that she hasn't talked to her sister in almost a week.
So when I would call her and she didn't even like text me or call me back in a reasonable to me amount of time, I was already calling her friends like, hey, do you know what's going on? Because one day for someone else may not be a big deal, but like for us, that was a big deal.
Investigators ask Aaliyah about Emmy's recent dating history, including anyone she may be talking to online.
Police ask Aaliyah if they had known of her to talk to any men from dating sites or sugar daddy websites, and Aaliyah says absolutely not, that this is not something that she would do.
That's when Aaliyah brings up someone who's already familiar to police, Javon Gilbert.
Aaliyah said she had some concerns about Javon.
Aaliyah says not long after Emma Shea and Javon started dating, the relationship took a downhill turn.
Javon ended up losing his job as a mechanic because, according to him, he was giving oil changes after hours, which Aaliyah thought was very suspicious.
And then him not truly working created some strain in the relationship too, because essentially she was taking care of everything.
Like the bills and rent. Yeah.
After it was obvious that Javon wasn't going to seek more employment, Emmy got kind of tired of that, and she basically kicked him out.
But Aaliyah says Javon wasn't willing to accept Emma Shea's new boundaries.
He would show up unannounced to places where she was. He would come to her apartment and look through her windows.
So she really begins to become concerned for her life because Javon is doing this stalking behavior.
And in mid-September, just a few weeks before Emma Shea went missing, the tense situation reached a tipping point.
Emma Shea was in her apartment asleep, and she felt like somebody was in her apartment.
She wakes up to find Javon standing over her holding a knife.
Monday at 9 on TV One.
Houston detectives investigating the missing persons case of 29-year-old teacher Emma Shea Kirby have just learned that her ex, Javon Gilbert, had been stalking her in the weeks leading up to her disappearance.
her sister, had some concerns about Javon Gilbert, specifically dangerous behavior about breaking into Emma Shea's apartment, standing over her with a knife, and doing things that were making Emma Shea very, very fearful.
He's standing over her and she can't sleep. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, we need to call the cops or something, you know.
But to Aaliyah's dismay, her sister decided against involving the authorities at that time.
She's like, I don't know, sometimes it's hard because I don't like to just cut people off because I want to treat people how I would treat people. So she's still kind of like rationalizing.
However, Emma Shea did take other steps to try to protect herself from her ex.
She did contact her leasing office to inquire about the cost of ending the lease early.
I think that the timing is important because she is trying so desperately to get out of that apartment and to break the lease.
But now, Aaliyah is worried her sister didn't escape Javon's clutches soon enough.
I already know something is wrong. She's not okay, and it's because of him.
Aaliyah says even her last text messages with her sister now seem questionable.
She also explains to law enforcement how she recently got several texts from her sister's phone number, but those text messages were weird to her sister because they had emojis.
She didn't text you with emojis.
That wasn't the norm for her to put those.
Aaliyah told police that she thought that maybe those text messages were actually from Javon to make it look like she was alive and well.
After speaking with Aaliyah, detectives share her concerns about Javon. Is it possible everything he told police in his interview was an attempt to mislead them as well?
His story did not really line up with what Aaliyah said had happened, so they were interested in finding out a little bit more about this guy.
They run Javon's name through the database, and they discover that he is on probation and deferred adjudication for arson.
Although Emma Shea never filed any police reports against Javon, years earlier, another woman had.
Police see a protective order from a woman named Lily Chin, and they can also see that this is Javon's ex-wife.
Detectives immediately track down Lily Chen, and she agrees to speak with them about Javon.
We know that you had a real hard time with Javon. Can you tell us about y'all's relationship?
I met him in high school.
Okay.
She basically tells police that Javon was her high school sweetheart. You know, they eventually had a baby together, and things were good until they turned bad.
Lily says the first red flag she noticed was how Javon treated animals.
Lily tells investigators that when they moved in together, she had 4 pets. And so one by one, they started dying.
He killed a dog.
He killed the dog.
If that's not crazy, I don't know what is. If somebody can do that to an animal, Lord only knows what they could do to a person.
Then Javon's abusive behavior carried over to the couple's infant child.
Lily actually mentions that his daughter, when she would cry, there was abuse.
She was screaming. She doesn't stop crying. So he would put her in a closet. So I had to go grab the baby.
After the fiasco with the child endangerment, things just went downhill from there. She decided to move out.
That's why I moved out of the place and lived together.
Okay.
She was ready to start, fresh, and was very adamant about not providing Javon with the location as to where she was.
But before long, she realized Javon had figured out her new address.
I realized he started following me from my job. I saw him in the apartment complex.
Then one night, something even more terrifying happened while Lily was asleep in her new apartment.
I woke up like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I have a Japanese sword, the long one.
Yeah.
He was holding that next to my bed.
To detectives, the incident sounds eerily familiar.
They learn that he has done actions that are consistent with what they are seeing during their investigation with Emmy, specifically breaking into her home, holding in the ex-wife's case, a samurai sword compared to the knife, but consistent.
It's very familiar to us.
Really?
Yes.
You know, I was so scared. I said, you had to leave. I'm gonna call the police.
But for Lily, her waking nightmare wasn't over yet.
And he puts chloroform over her face, just like in the movies.
He kind of like covered my mouth, I just passed out. The next thing in the morning, I woke up.
Afterwards, Lily didn't hear from Javon for months. But he still wasn't done terrorizing her.
She was in her home asleep, and she was awoken out of her sleep by the smells of smoke.
Because I was dreaming. I woke up, but I saw there was smoke just everywhere.
Her apartment was actually on fire.
Investigators in Houston, Texas now believe Javon Gilbert is behind the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend, Emma Shea Kirby.
They see a lot of the signs of abuse with Emma Shea that they're starting to hear about and learn happened with the ex-wife.
Javon's ex-wife Lily describes a harrowing tale of survival to investigators.
After not hearing from Javon for months, Lily woke up to smoke filling her apartment.
Her home was on fire, and there was not a way for her to exit the home safely.
When she looked out of the window, she saw her ex-husband, Javon Gilbert, in the parking lot.
That's why I called 911.
Help me, please. My ex set my apartment on fire.
You want to kill me?
Fortunately, emergency personnel were able to put out the blaze and get Lily and her daughter to safety.
Javon was arrested and charged with arson. They found a gas canister and lighter in his car that essentially confirmed he was responsible.
In 2015, Javon Gilbert pled guilty to arson. It's a first-degree felony which carries a range of punishment from 5 years in prison up to 99 years or life.
But because Javon didn't have any prior criminal convictions, he walked away with only probation.
The judge decided that an 8-year deferred adjudication was an appropriate sentence in this case.
It was around that same time that Javon met Emma Shea Kirby.
Emmy didn't know what he was capable of.
For detectives, it's now clear that Javon has a propensity for violence.
It's very clear that Javon wanted to control these women when he did not get his way in these romantic relationships, and when they were no longer willing to put up with some of his behaviors. Then at that point, it triggered him and sent him spiraling.
However, investigators will need more evidence to prove Javon was involved in Emma Shea's disappearance.
At this point, they still don't know where Emma Shea is.
But as search efforts continue, investigators finally get their hands on a crucial piece of evidence.
Police are finally able to secure the surveillance video from the apartment complex, and they are able to see Javon on the night of September 18th at Emma Shea's apartment.
Around 9 p.m., they see Javon leaving with Emmy.
They do leave in her car to go to dinner, as Javon had indicated in his original interview.
They arrive back at the apartment together 40 minutes later.
The couple returns to the apartment, park her car, and they walk in together.
Everything looks normal on the tape. It doesn't appear that they were arguing or fighting, and looks like everything is fine.
When Emma Shea and Javon Gilbert walk into the apartment, that's the last time Emma Shea is ever seen alive, is on that surveillance camera.
At that point, Javon's statement to police is no longer supported by the surveillance footage.
He tells investigators that he left Emma Shea at 11 o'clock p.m. However, cameras show Javon actually leaving Emma Shea's apartment at 1:40 a.m. and Emma Shea is not with him.
They see him there at 1:40 in the morning, carrying a somewhat large package out of the apartment.
He loads the large item into the back of Emmy's car and drives off.
Almost an hour later, Javon returns to the apartment complex in Emmy's car, parking it in the spot where her family later found it.
Investigators have to consider that what they just witnessed on the surveillance footage is Javon disposing of Emmy's body.
The surveillance footage shows Javon returning to Emmy's apartment several times over the following days.
They see him carrying the sofa to the dumpster and disposing of it.
Detectives now wonder, was there forensic evidence on that sofa?
Unfortunately, by the time Homicide is able to get the surveillance, the trash in that location had already been picked up, and we were unable to locate any items of interest for the investigation.
However, volunteers with Texas EquiSearch have not given up their hunt for Emma Shea.
We got really involved in the mission at that point.
And they are about to make a vital discovery during their search of a local park.
I believe we had about 23 people that showed up for the search. I was in the front, and a deer ran in front of me. And I thought, this is crazy, because who sees a deer in Houston?
As Sheila follows the deer's path, the hair on the back of her neck stands up.
I caught an odor and saw something that just didn't sit right with me. I was trying to figure out what it was I was seeing.
Tammy!
We knew we found her. God put those deers there for a reason.
After unearthing a shocking history of violence and abuse, Houston detectives are certain 28-year-old Javon Gilbert is behind the disappearance and suspected murder of his ex-girlfriend, Emma Shea Kirby.
Now they just need to find her body in order to finally arrest Javon.
And on October 3rd, more than 2 weeks since Emma Shea was last seen, volunteers with Texas EquiSearch make the tragic discovery in a local park.
I caught an odor and saw something that just didn't sit right with me.
Tammy!
We'd found human remains, and it was Emma Shea.
When the autopsy was performed on Emmy's body, the coroner found that she had been strangled.
During my experience, strangulation is a very personal attack.
But that's not Emmy's only injury.
She suffered a gunshot wound to the right side of her forehead.
On January 20th, 2021, police finally take Javon into custody.
The police arrest him. They get him down to the station. He agrees to talk to the police.
Obviously, you know what this is about, right?
Yep.
It's during that conversation that they're able to start confronting him with all of the information that they have.
We've gathered a lot of data. We've gathered a lot of surveillance video.
Still, Javon sticks to the same story he originally told police.
Javon states he left Emmy's house around 11 p.m. on September 18.
He still wouldn't admit any type of involvement, and then they show him the video.
You want to see the video of the night of?
Yeah, we can do that too.
Clearly, Emmy is seen entering her apartment with Javon on the night of the 18th. But she never leaves. At least, not by her own will.
You're gonna see a guy walking out right here from her apartment. Sets this object down that he carried out, this big heavy object. Are you denying that this is you? You're just kind of sitting there like a bump on a log, so to speak. You gotta have something to say about it.
When they showed them the video of him taking a heavy object out of that apartment, he lawyered up, didn't want to talk to the police anymore.
I'm done. Huh? I'm done. You're done? Mm-hmm. You don't want to talk no more? Okay.
When he says that he wants a lawyer, that sort of sealed that investigators were on to what actually happened with Emma Shea Kirby.
At that point, law enforcement charged Javon Gilbert with the murder of Emma Shea Kirby. They also charged him with tampering with evidence for taking her body and moving it.
Because Javon is still on probation from the arson charge, prosecutors decide to take an unorthodox approach to his murder charge.
This was an unusual circumstance. The arson that he was on probation for and the murder that he was charged with carry the exact same range of punishment.
Despite all the evidence they have against Javon for Emma Shea's murder, it's only circumstantial. There's a risk that the jury could find him not guilty.
The prosecutor wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to get away. So it was like, okay, well, if we can get him on the arson charges, that automatically carries a sentence of life.
So we used the murder case as a triggering event to revoke his probation and move forward on that first.
Instead of taking Javon to trial, prosecutors file a motion to adjudicate guilt.
This isn't a jury trial. It's the judge listening to the evidence and having to determine have we proven the facts of the case such that he can find those allegations true and at that point revoke the probation.
Prosecutors tell the judge that Javon violated his probation in the most egregious way possible by murdering his ex-girlfriend, Emmy Kirby.
I think Javon Gilbert knew that Emma Shea was done with him. She wasn't giving him any more chances, and that's the most dangerous time in the life of an intimate partner victim.
Javon had finally realized that Emmy was done with him and that she didn't need him anymore, and she was really set to start a new life.
I think what made him snap is that he realized he no longer had control, and she stood up to him, and that made him really angry.
She was probably being brutally honest with him. He didn't want to hear it, so he strangled her to death.
But the violence didn't end there.
Prosecutors believe that Javon then shot her in the head just out of anger or spite.
After his rage subsided, Javon immediately began to try and cover up the crime.
He got rid of the evidence, which is primarily the couch, got her body, took it out, put it in a car, drove it to Bear Creek Park, dumped it, and went back to try to clean up the rest of the scene.
Prosecutors also believe Javon continued sending texts from Emmy's phone over the next few days to intentionally point investigators in the wrong direction.
Essentially, Javon had Emmy's phone and was texting himself and other people, trying to make it seem like Emmy was actually communicating and reaching out to family members.
The phone is never recovered, and there was never a gun that was recovered during this investigation.
He probably was just smart enough to know that if he discarded a gun, it couldn't be connected to him. And there are plenty of waterways and little creeks and stuff in that Bear Creek Park for plenty of opportunity to do that.
However, by the end of the hearing, the judge agrees that Javon is in violation of his probation.
Javon ultimately was sentenced to life in prison for arson.
I believe that the family was satisfied with the ultimate verdict and prioritizing the old arson case over the homicide case. And when we did end up with a life sentence, I thought they were happy with the result.
But what does this say about our court system that Javon was able to walk away free after the arson attempt against his ex-wife? If Javon had been put behind bars then, maybe he never would have been able to do what he did to Emmy.
When looking at intimate partner violence, when trying to escape these sort of relationships, the most critical time and the most dangerous time is when these folks are trying to escape. With Lily and with Emmy, they were both desperately trying to get away from this particular person.
I would encourage anybody that's in a relationship that there are the red flags. Separate yourself so you can get away from that person and continue with your life. You may save your own life by leaving that person.